Thank you everyone for watching my last video, and it's bumped us up over 3,000 subscribers and we've just shot straight past that, so thank you very much. In this video I'm just going to dive into some of your comments. I'm going to try and respond to as many of them as I possibly can without dragging this video out into a 2-hour spectacular thing. I've also noticed that there's a little tab here in the back end of YouTube that has comments that have been held for review, so I apologise to all of you that have had comments that have been held for review. There's quite a few of you. I will be getting through to those comments, but I'll reply. I'll type in my reply to those very shortly. So apologies for that. Okay. Thank you very much. Spot on video. Thank you for commenting. Dale11 always giving me the inside tips on your trading on Bitcoin. Thank you very much. As you rightly point out, financially there may be things that are more beneficial than solar, but you know, we're trying to blend the two objectives of reducing our carbon emissions as well as perhaps saving some money along the way. I'm now tempted to north-facing roof here. South side is flat due to loft conversion. Always thought it was a no-go. Anyone able to recommend anywhere with good info to see what could be achieved? We have less roof space than the one on here due to Velux windows, etc. But now wondering if it might actually be worth it. Okay, so James Dorr, you can have a look at PVGIS. You can have a look at Open Solar, and you can have a look at Easy PV. All different tools depending on how you want to do it. You can Open Solar I found very easy. I've actually done a video, if you look back in my videos, about Open Solar and how I used it to model my house, how I came to these conclusions about the north facing panels. You'll probably find that the flat roof, that is due to a loft conversion, so you've got some sort of dormer, I guess, that will probably generate more than a pure north facing roof, because on these overcast days, the flatter the panel, the more efficient it will be. It's just because both of my orientations of my roof are roughly about 30%, that they generate about the same when it's cloudy. But if I were to lay some panels completely flat down on my driveway, they would produce more watts than the same panels at a 30-degree pitch. Does that make sense? Also, in the summer months, when the sun gets really high, if you've got flat panels on your dormer loft conversion, then they will generate more than the north-facing ones. So I think ultimately the important point is don't rule anything out, model it, do some calculations and figure out what's going to work for your property. We can only work with what we've got, and that's what I'm doing right here. It might be more instructive to compare performance in terms of kilowatt hours produced divided by kilowatt peak installed for each aspect, northwest and southeast. Okay, so in the last presentation, although I showed those little pie chart breakdowns that you want some actual figures on it, a bit more detail. In the last video, I was trying to kind of condense it down and make it quite digestible for, you know, every, you know, Tom, Dick and Harry, every Joe blogs. But I can do that for you right now. We've got 2.58 on the front, so if we divide 85.85 that was generated, that gives us 33.275 kilowatt hours produced for every kilowatt peak that's fitted on the southeast facing roof, compared to 144.1 divided by 6.88 that we've got on the rear roof. Of course, you could get a calculator out and do it from my 2 slides. So I'm saving you the legwork, but maybe this is something I'll include in the future. I can see that there's quite a few people that want a lot more data, so maybe I'll start the video very concise and digestible and easy to manage for everyone, and then I'll go into greater depth for those people that want to hang around past, you know, the first 2, 3, 4, 5 minutes, that want to see these breakdown. So the rear roof, which is the northwest facing aspect, 20.95 kilowatt hours produced for every kilowatt hour of peak. So that's 33.28 for southeast and 20.95 for northwest. So hopefully that shows the percentage there. Okay, which is actually pretty much in the ballpark of what we were expecting from our calculations, which is good. Of course, this was directed. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. And backing each other up, good. Well, that always gives me a good indication of where I should be heading, what direction of what's useful for you in the videos. I would expect the optimizers to be more active on sunny days when the sunlight is directional rather than on cloudy days when the sunlight is scattered from all directions. Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm seeing so far. It's early days, but the first week of March was very sunny, which has given some interesting data already. The jury's still out on optimizers, but let's see what happens going into April, May, June, July, August. Then we'll know for sure later in the year. So stick around and I'll keep sharing it. But yeah, your expectation is being borne out in the data. Ben, thanks for sharing your system output almost exactly what ours did for February. I'm guessing matching. Yeah, we only have 17 panels, but 13 are south facing and 4 are west facing. We don't have any other usable roof space for more. Very good, maxing your space out. Excellent. Being better orientated on balance. We saw better output on sunny days. Over 20 kilowatt hours was repeatedly achieved. Very nice. For February, very nice indeed. But on the cloudy days, your system beats ours hollow. Very interesting to compare the two on a day-by-day basis. From this, I conclude ours will do better on sunny days until the sun gets high enough for your lovely north-facing panels to get excited. Yeah, nice. Then your overall panel capacity will win out. In the winter, where dispersed light is more prevalent, your system's north panels will be very influential, as you pointed out. During the summer, we will both be exporting like mad, so surely it is the winter production that is more influential in our overall self-consumption. Wow. Yeah, great point. This is what I've been thinking a lot about, because a lot of people talk about two different systems that they need. You need the solar panels to get you through the summer, and then you need a home battery to get you through the winter. And perhaps just by pure mass, the surface area, you can generate enough even on those cloudy days to, at least suck up a lot of your base load and then some. You did the right thing putting that north-facing array. Thank you for the positive reinforcement. We have optimizers on all panels due to shading and a single string. I believe you will see much more influence from your optimizers as the direct sun gets cut out by shading from your roof. Brilliant. Thank you very much. The other factor I haven't really spoken about much, but as the sun gets higher, the effect of the shading on our front panels from the gable is also reduced. I'm sure if you go back a few videos, you can see some of my time lapses that I did of the front roof. Those time lapses that I recorded were in January, where the sun was very low. So the shading and the shadow cast on the front panels was definitely more emphasized when I recorded that time lapse. I want to repeat that time lapse. Maybe I should do it on a sunny day in March, and then maybe in a few months' time, and then maybe I can just run them all back to back. It's only like a 20-second time lapse over a few hours, which shows the shading on the front roof. It's an interesting point anyway. Thank you. Over 20 kilowatt hours was repeatedly achieved. That's amazing performance. Are you based in the UK? Yes, West Oxfordshire. And some more details on the panels. Yeah, I agree. Very, very good performance. I don't know what pitch your roof is at. You share your orientation there. Very good. Yeah. Well, you say it bodes well for the summer months, so I'm guessing this is fairly new installation. So you're also collecting your data. But yeah, brilliant. Yeah. Very good. Good. Well, it's good to see a little bit of community and sharing as well, so you can see what's possible and what everyone else has experienced. Pretty much useless when they are covered in green algae. Any north-facing structure is covered in algae and moss. Well, aren't you a ray of sunshine? Thank you for coming to rain on my parade. No, seriously, I have considered that. Before the solar panels were put on the roof, there was a clear difference that the front roof was nowhere near as covered as the rear roof was. There are lots of different ways to combat this, and I've already done a bit of research. I have been using a product called Wet and Forget on algae and moss and stuff like that anyway, and I've seen very good results with it, and it's quite a long-term beneficial product. It's said to be safe for solar panels, and you can literally just spray it on from the ground. Second to that is I get myself a big lance, 15 odd meters. I guess 10 meters probably wouldn't quite do it. Maybe I'd just about be able to reach with a 10-meter lance to then brush and wash them off. Otherwise, I've got to pay a window cleaner to come and do it. But I'm sure, seeing as we're planning to be here for the long haul, I might as well just invest in the tools. But you're not wrong. I will definitely give an update over the next year or two about how much of an issue that does become and if we see a drop-off in performance. Well, that's totally changed my mind on Optimisers and our northeast roof. Thanks. Also, I think a really interesting piece of analysis would be the amount of storage you could have used each day, i.e. the lesser of the amount you imported or exported. Most people aim to match their daily usage, but I suspect maximum ROI would be for a much smaller battery, just enough to soak up the excess to get you through the night. So I could tell you that I haven't worked out the exact mean. I have that on my spreadsheet. The mean import for February was 14.86 kilowatt hours. So that doesn't necessarily mean that I need a 15 kilowatt hour battery, because I would be able to, if I took off the export, the export would go into the batteries, which is 92. So I'd probably be bringing it down to closer to a 10 kilowatt hour import that would be needed. So yeah, I mean, that's pretty typical these days, isn't it? I know for a long time it seemed commonplace to just install a 3 kilowatt hour battery, and then a lot of people started moving to 5 kilowatt hour batteries, and now 10 kilowatt hour seems to be the norm. So that certainly seems like that would fit our usage profile for February at least, but we'll see as we go further in. There's no proof in puddings. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Oh, thank you very much. Good to hear the old school original one. Yes, I am aware that I sometimes am a bit casual with some of my idioms, but yeah, thank you very much. I live in Australia and have 13 kilowatt of panels over west, south and east roofs, and 10 kilowatt of inverters. The east roof, so being in the southern hemisphere, him having panels on the south roof is probably frowned upon. Like in the UK, we are frowned upon putting it on the north roof, I guess, because of the inversion there. The east roof is really handy in winter, in the morning, of course, and west roof is needed to catch in the late afternoon sun in summer to power the aircon on hot days. Yes, I guess that's very important. I'm in the process of replacing the remaining gas appliances with electric. Great, brilliant. My brother-in-law lives in Australia as well, and he is actually a refrigeration engineer. So he does some of these things with air conditioning and stuff like that, and knows about heat pumps and thingamajigs. I have a Tesla and have driven 6,000 kilometers, and all the electricity to recharge the Tesla has come from my solar. Solar systems are cheap here, with 6.6 kilowatt system seller for about 2,000. Wow. Is that installed for that price? Because that is an absolute bargain. Australia is a lucky country, and 3 million homes have solar. Yeah, that's brilliant. We need to move closer. Of course, we don't have the sunshine that you do, so we're not going to generate the same, but brilliant to hear. That's great to see what's happening on the other side of the globe. I guess in that you think it was worth it. Yes, so far I do think it's worth it, but I'll give a yearly roundup. Probably towards the end of the summer, I'll kind of give a bit of an analysis, and then this time next year, after I've got a full year's worth of data, then we'll have some strong conclusions. To me, I think you now have energy security and flexibility to increase your electrification. that is an EV might be an option for you. I'm considering something with vehicle to load. It'll add more security. Yeah, this is a big thing for us. Energy security, energy independence, whatever you want to call it. You're not held hostage to the next price cap rise or whatever may happen in some remote dictatorship on the eastern part of our globe. Oh, I can hear my wife's voice in my head. Step away from the politics. Brilliant. Thank you. I would estimate my 2 kilowatt system is making roughly 100 kilowatt hours a month. So not bad going on north facing. Okay. Yeah. I'm guessing that specifically, is that specifically February that you're talking about 100 kilowatt hours a month, which is good. My 2.58 that is on the southeast side, that made 85.85 kilowatt hours, as you could see in the last video. So I have a 7.6 kilowatt array. I only made 546 kilowatt hours for the month of Feb, living in Atlanta, Georgia. I only, oh man. Yeah, well, this might be why solar has not progressed so quickly in the UK compared to some places. Atlanta, Georgia, a bit too warm for me, I'm afraid. I don't think I could stand those temperatures and that climate there. But I have been to Atlanta once, just as a layover. I had to change planes there once upon a time. Thank you for commenting and viewing all the way from Atlanta. So we've already got someone from Australia, someone from Atlanta, and someone from Oxfordshire. Maybe you all want to put in the comments where you're from. It would be interesting for me to know where people are watching from. Have just got solar, quote, on our south-facing roof, 9. I guess that's 9 panels. And on our south-facing garage, 8. Now you got me thinking of the other side of my roof. Well, every situation is different. I'm just saying, keep your options open, do some analysis. For me, the people, the expertise, the manpower was already on site. The scaffold was already here. To put it on the north-facing roof, it did make financial sense. And it was a good way of future-proofing. I didn't have to run into this, I'm going to put a bit here, a bit there. I'm going to have this inverter and then that inverter and expand it. I just thought, let's just go for it. Although it took up all the money that I wanted to spend on a home battery, I'm glad that we've done it this way. And maybe next winter we'll have the funds to put a home battery in and our inverter's ready to go. So anyway, thank you for commenting. 1 megawatt hour in February for me, absolute washout. Wow, 1 megawatt hour in February. So you've done more than 4 times what we did in February. You must have either a mansion with a roof the size of Windsor Castle, or you have a ground array and you have a good bit of land, because normal houses do not have big enough roofs for 1 megawatt hours in February. I can't imagine. Okay, although, Kev, XSI 16 valve, is that an old, you're wishing for the days of your old Astra? Was it an Astra XSI? I don't know, I was never a Vauxhall person. I installed 6 kilowatt system due north and had 2 chimneys causing a sundial effect. Used an SMA inverter with shad fix. Look it up. System made 3,100 kilowatt hours. Oh, is that over the year are you talking about? Was that your annual production? 3,100 kilowatt hours. I do need to look at what shad fix is. Okay. Shade fix with SMA inverters. So that appears from a brief little Google. It appears to be something similar to Solar Edge with their panel optimizers. The Tigo optimizers that I've got seem to do exactly the same thing. They all seem to pretty much work in the same way. Colin, good stats and proves that we should not ignore north-facing roofs for solar. Yes, just do your homework. They may work out well for you. I'm just about to have 5 additional 425 watt panels installed on our northwest roof to complement the existing 10 panels on our southeast roof. Okay, brilliant. Optimizers are included for the 5 new panels, which would be located inside the roof loft space inside the roof space, inside the loft space, and not under the panels on the roof, which is standard practice. This provides easy access should any need to be replaced in the future, i.e. no need for on-roof access scaffold to affect the repairs. I'm also having an additional 9.5 kilowatt hour battery installed, up to 19 kilowatt hour total. This will give us double the storage capacity, more export options, and allow us to run longer into the day and winter on battery power only. Excellent. Wow. This is quite an investment you're making. Brilliant. After this, I'll be maxed out on solar, and I will move on to alternatives for house heating and hot water to replace our gas boiler. Well, I know why you're watching this channel then. Hi, if you have a fence line that gets the sun, consider put solar against that. Here in the UK, panel prices have dropped by a third. Yep, so utilising available space looks like a good option. Those weeds I grow make good use of it, so should I. Brilliant, Mark. Yeah, brilliant. Not only was this Feb the worst Feb for PV generation in the 9 winters I've had PV, but the worst month period. March is looking much better, and then take off until October. Yeah, well, you say that. The first week of March was looking really brilliant, and now I'm sat in here. It is absolutely raining cats and dogs outside, and it looks like the forecast for the next 10 days is pretty much the same. So this, I don't know if this is global warming, climate change, all of that. I'm not that clued up on the exact science of all of the effects, but February, the warmest and wettest on record. We're looking like March is going to be, or potentially could be, the wettest on record if this forecast for the next couple of weeks comes to fruition. I know things can change with forecasting, but we'll see. Anyway, it always used to be a no-no for north-facing panels, but 3 things have developed in the last 3 years. Or 2 maybe. There's a lot of I'm guessing a lot of your comments from all of these previous commenters, a lot of typos and spelling things. It's the plague of smartphones, isn't it? And autocorrect. So no need to feel embarrassed, anyone who's commenting. I also was terrible. English was my weak spot when I was doing my GCSEs all those years ago. Number 1, the efficiency has increased significantly. 2, the capacity of each panel, and 3, the cost now less than half. So definitely worth doing now, I think, or at least thinking about it, if that's your only option. Not sure about optimizers though, unless you have a shading problem, as I do slightly with the chimney. They do seem to delay or reduce the startup threshold. Presumably it's to do with their startup voltages. Also, as someone else mentioned, they are something else to go wrong. The only 2 times I've had problems with my system was to do with optimizer failures, and they are Solar Edge, one of the best supposedly. Yeah, well, this is one of the reasons I'm monitoring I'm monitoring the optimization of the panels, just with the potential that if these optimizers do fail, I want to know whether actually it's worthwhile to replace these optimizers, or whether I'm better to just discard them. And there's 2 schools of thought developing down this avenue, and I see optimizers in the future becoming a bit more of a contentious issue, because there's no doubt that they give you gain, but do they give you enough gain for the extra capital investment, which is quite low with optimizers? They're not the most expensive product, but another point of potential failure in the system. And unless you're smart, like our friend up here with Colin, that you need scaffold, at least a scaffold tower, for someone to safely go and swap some of those out. So yeah, great points in there. Thank you very much for sharing. Hi, I have, and as you say, and they are Solar Edge, one of the best supposedly. Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that have Solar Edge systems, so perhaps there's the potential for a higher rate of public disclosure of failure. But Solar Edge doesn't seem to be as bulletproof as some would make you think. I don't know, but maybe there's some installers out there who have different opinions that are working with this stuff all the time. Anyway, Richard ABW, hi, I have a north-north-east, south-southwest split for the reasons you mentioned in the video. On an overcast day, it doesn't really matter what orientation the panels are, and those are the days that you need as much as possible. Yeah, this is exactly one of the reasons that I ended up going with this system. It the solar is pretty much covering, especially now it's getting a bit milder and a bit warmer. Our solar, even on the most gloomy day, it's still covering the base load, even with the heat pump and heating our home. It's still generating enough. What is it generating right as we speak? I'll refresh this page. Okay, 588 watts. It's not a lot. It's not brilliant, but we are still exporting. Of that, we're exporting 297 watts to the grid. Our base load with my computer and everything on, it's 190 watts that we're consuming in the house right now. I guess the heat pump has gone into standby mode because it's so mild. I find that compared to most people on YouTube, my system has less variation between good days and bad days. Yeah, I think that's what I'm experiencing with the big north-facing array. That seems to kind of smooth out these troughs and peaks and troughs, and maybe in a weird sort of way that counteracts the lack of home storage battery, or maybe I'm just saying that for some confirmation bias to make myself not feel so bad about not being able to currently afford the cost of the home storage battery. You still haven't told us how much the panels install cost you. Okay, I thought I mentioned that, but I should do a dedicated video to it. I'm just struggling to find the time. YouTube doesn't pay my bills, and so I'm very busy with work, especially as we run up to the end of the tax year. This is a very busy time for me. From kind of January to the beginning of April is an absolute sprint for my work. So let me give you a rough idea. So you can roughly split the cost in 50-50. The northwest roof was about half the cost of the installation, there or thereabouts. What that means is, so I paid 9,700-ish. No, 9,775 is what I paid in total. That included everything, included all the documentation, certification. I have a G100, so I do have an export limit of 6.5 kilowatts. I haven't made that a prominent feature. I did mention that in passing in one of the last videos. If I were to just do the 2.58 kilowatt peak panels on the front roof, the 6 panels with a 3.68 kilowatt inverter, so it would be under a G98 notification, with the scaffold, with all the materials, and with the optimizers that would be needed, bird proofing and everything. Those quotes were roughly about $5,000, 5 to 6 grand anyway. To then add on the 16 panels on the rear of the roof, it became more expensive because the panels are also in the landscape orientation. So it means I've got twice as many rails, more roof hooks, so more hardware, and it's more difficult for them to work on the roof because typically they like the portrait panels. They have the landscape rails, or the horizontal rails, which they can put the bottom one in, and then they can kind of climb up on that and then work their way up. When they're putting the panels on in the landscape orientation, they've got these vertical rails running up and down, which aren't helping them. It's more difficult for them to work on the roof. It's more difficult for them to mount. It's more materials, and of course I've got 16 panels out the back. But depending on how you split that, the rear roof cost me four and a half grand to add that on. That's the kind of rough breakdown, but I'll put together the exact figures and I'll make an exact video so you know exactly what the costs are. But that's what I am hoping to recoup the costs on. Of course, February didn't go anywhere to actually recuperating any financial investment on that roof. And at, approaching 10 grand, the cost is not insignificant. But I still think we got brilliant value for money, and, got some decent kit. And crucially as well, part of the reason that the rear roof costs so much more is it requires a bigger inverter. It requires more hassle with a G99, which then became the G100 because of the export limit. And also I optioned that we went for the big big bad inverter, which is the beefiest one you can get with the highest charge and discharge rates to future-proof me for battery upgrade. So part of the additional cost for the rear roof isn't really fair because we ended up with a really expensive inverter. You could probably knock easily 500, 600, 700, maybe £1,000 off if we hadn't have gone for the big inverter and the additional costs that come from G99 and stuff like that. But anyway, I digress. I do think optimizers are oversold. They add a failure point per panel to your system too. The safety aspect of them is what might swing me, knowing if something odd happens, they can disconnect the current. Yeah, there are several benefits to optimizers, and I mean, there's brilliant channels that go into things like this. Gary does solar. I love his videos. He breaks down a lot of these things and sometimes shows some alternative viewpoints to the way the kind of perceived wisdom in the established industry would have you think. But yeah, great point. And I hope that I can share some real world data that either proves that they're worth it or disproves it. Either way, they weren't forced upon me by my installer. I think he recommended great solutions, but ultimately he very much let me be in the driving seat and dictate what I wanted to choose, where I wanted to spend my money, and I'm really grateful for that. Okay, where are we here? Owen Ashcroft. Interesting. Our south-facing roof can fit enough panels for a moderate array, but our north-facing roof could hold 3 times the number of panels. Maybe worth considering down the line as our use increases. That's pretty much what's the situation I'm in, I guess. Although our south-facing roof I wouldn't really call that a moderate array, 6 panels. I think that's kind of a minimal array. But yeah, we're jumping up to 16 panels on the rear roof, so almost 3 times. So yeah, this is probably interesting data for you. Make sure you're subscribed. I had a little bit of it wasn't a whinge, sorry if it came across like that. Some people, it shows that they're publicly subscribed. I understand now a lot of these other people, you may be subscribed, but because you've got privacy settings on, it won't show as publicly subscribed to my channel, which is fine. I'm not here to pressure anyone. The point I was just trying to make, that to try and promote some of this content and spread some of this content to people and try and debunk or demystify some of the issues around solar and heat pumps by you liking videos, commenting on videos. It just helps promote the video to other people who might find it interesting. Subscribing to the channel is a bonus as well, but that's more a personal bonus. Liking and commenting and actually watching the video from start to finish is a good one to bump it, apparently, according to these algorithm guru people. Anyway, Colin Good, I'm adding 5 more panels. Yeah, now half the price you paid for the panels last March. Yeah, and that was one of the things discussing with some people who've had solar installed even just 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. It's just a different world now, so it's worth people doing their research up to date with 2024 figures. Derek Hasted. From my own experience, this February really wasn't a good one compared to previous years. I have 7 east-facing panels and 7 west-facing panels. And same as you, on a cloud day, both strings perform fairly equally. I think you'll find that March is going to give you very different figures. There's a lot more direct sunlight. Yeah, already interesting data collected on the first 11 days of March as I record this. I won't give away too much, but it's interesting to see that we have now had one day where the front panels outperform the back panels. It's a marginal benefit, but clearly that was quite a sunny day in the morning, and then it must have become quite a thick cloud in the afternoon. I should look, before I publish the next video, I'll look further into the weather for that precise day to see why that's such an anomaly, because on most of the other days, even when it's quite a sunny day, it's been quite similar outputs for the north northwest and the southeast facing arrays, and on most of the days the big northwest facing array is still outperforming by a healthy margin so far in March. But let's see anyway, and I'm sure you're going to be right. As the months change, we're going to get a different profile of our generation. The Ronsky man. Okay, I'm an idiot. I was interested to see how your Northwest panels perform, but I've actually got Northwest panels. Brilliant. I've always referred to them as East and West. Okay. This is on my double garage installation. They are actually Northwest and Southeast. So the Northwest panels are exactly the same orientation as my Northwest roof. Only difference would be 30 degrees pitch instead of 10. I need to get up there and have a measure to see what I can fit. It's a large roof, but there is a chimney stack which will cause some shade in mid to late afternoon onwards. This February has been the worst February for my original system since it was installed in December 2015, although February 2017 was only very slightly better. Well, good to hear. From what I understand and from the calculations that I did on my journey, northwest facing panels at a 10 degree pitch will outperform those at a 30 degree pitch. But as you know, my roof is about 30 degrees, 31.8 degree roof pitch, and the northwest panels are still performing very well. So if you're interested in adding capacity to your roof, then it looks like you've found a great option. And depending on the chimney, you may be able to have some optimizers, or you may want to risk it and go without and see how that goes. Great video, and your summary was bang on. Diffused light works well with my array, so I expect you will be looking for a bright, cloudy summer. Yeah, that's true. Those kind of bright, cloudy days are when the system does generate really well, especially the rear roof. It can be 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, and it's just a white sky, but a very bright white sky, and the rear roof does really well. My only concern would be algae that may form on the north-facing panels, as the sun and heat may not be enough to burn this off. What do you consider for routine maintenance and keeping them clean? Well, I think I covered that one. It'd be interesting as well, because we don't have a pure north-facing roof, it's northwest. It gets the sun, in the afternoon and evening, and yeah, I'll see how it goes. I'll see how bad it really is. Side point, do we pronounce this as algae or algae? Come on. In the south of England anyway, maybe it's different if you're Scottish, or definitely if you're American. I'm sure you've got a weird way of saying it. I'm impressed with how much you're producing. It's only 55 kilowatt hours less than my south facing system on the Isle of Wight. That's only a 20% reduction. Thank you for your comment, Grant. I don't know what your kilowatt peak is on your system. That would be good to know if you could pop that in the comments so you could see. Yeah, and geographically we're obviously very close. I had a great trip to the Isle of Wight last month in February. And from my house to the Red Funnel Terminal, I think it's about 8 miles, something like that. Anyway, you're a stone's throw away in terms of solar generation. So good thing to compare to. Nice video. I hadn't considered the diffused light point. I suspect the northwest roof will also benefit from direct sunlight later in the day in summer. Yes, correct. We're already seeing that in March on some of these sunny days. For anyone on Octopus Flux, that will be quite lucrative given the high export rate from 4 to 7 p.m. Yeah, this is what I want to drill down into to understand which tariff I should be on. But that's another video. I've already been putting together some preliminary notes. I'm really getting tongue twisted today about whether I'm going to stay on Octopus Tracker for the summer or whether I'm going to risk it on Octopus Flux. Bearing in mind, if I jump off Octopus Tracker, I can't regain that tariff for 9 months. I could, however, jump onto Octopus Agile when it gets into the darker months. I don't know. Anyway, I've put together a little bit of a spreadsheet and I've imported some of my smart meter data so far, but I just don't have enough solar data to make a fully informed decision. I just don't know how it's going to go in May, June, July, but we'll see. Anyway, thanks for your comment. I think it will be very informative to see how the southeast to northwest generation ratio varies over the year. It might debunk the only get solar if you have a south facing roof view. That is heard a lot. Yeah, I think views are slowly changing on that. And speaking to some of the solar installers, each of them seem to have an anecdotal story or a case study that they'd been involved in one odd house where they'd put a load of north facing panels and it had done okay. So if we can spread some of this information, then I'm not saying that this is going to work for everyone, but you just have to work with what you've got, and that's the roof I've got. That's the roof I've got to work with. Should generate a surprisingly good amount during summer. It's definitely worth it. Thank you for the positive reinforcement. We all need a bit of that. All the solar panels that I see in Tenerife are south facing. The shower I have tends to have free hot water more often than not. Yet I guess it's because Tenerife has significantly more sunlight than the UK. Yeah, well, that's, of course, it's going to be a factor. It's not just Tenerife that has only south facing panels. Here in the UK, we started transitioning, I don't know how long ago. I've been trying to pay attention, but people in the industry will know better than me. But maybe 5 years ago, it was south facing only, and then we've had the last few years of east facing and west facing panels do quite well at different times of the day, and maybe we can have complementary arrays, and especially if you've only got east and west, brilliant. I wonder if the industry over the next 5 years is going to have a bit more of a change, that now the cost of panels is a lot lower, capital investment is lower, maybe it's worth covering the roofs on all aspects, southwest, east, north. Of course, those people who can get an ideal 35-degree system orientated perfectly south over the course of the year, they will generate more kilowatt hours. That doesn't necessarily mean that they are going to be generating their profile. The profile of generation may not nicely match the profile of their energy consumption. So I don't know. Anyway, stop rambling. I need to move on. I've still got loads of comments. Main takeaway for me is simply don't write them off as bad. Surface area can help a lot to make it a more nuanced decision. Very eloquently put. Thank you very much, Mr. Claw. And indirect light on dull days can be surprisingly good for covering base load. You should come and do the outro on the video. Brilliant. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Hi, I've noted with my panels that on dull indirect light days, the non-aligned panels make more power than those aimed at the non-existent sun. So in the end, on those days in winter, they are worth it. On sunny days, they will lose out, but still bring in good power. I would recommend a battery. 15p for feed-in is poor, and take in the mic. Yeah. Thanks for your comment, Mark. I think I've covered some of that in previous replies. Panels going up Monday down here in Devon, an 8-panel east and 10-panel west split of 18,420 with a give energy system with two 9.5 kilowatt hour batteries. Adding batteries here was near a must as they limited my export to 3.68. Oh, wow. Up to the grid when I want is how I've gone. The north facing you have is a good way to go with the roof space you had to work with, but I can see a battery in the crystal ball in your very near future. Come summer, your export is going to fly out and you will wish you had some of it to use later. Happy to hit a sub in for you, the off-grid solar powered koi pond down here in Devon. Brilliant. That's a wonderful comment. Good to hear. I'd love to know. So this, I guess your panels are now on the roof. I'm recording this. Oh no, hang on. It's Tuesday today. So I guess you're mid-installation. Maybe the panels are going on the roof. It's terrible weather today. So I'm hoping they put the panels on yesterday and they're doing the inverter and the other work inside today. I don't know. But anyway, be good to hear how yours is going for you. It's a shame that they limited your export to 3.68. I'm lucky that the export limitation is 6.5, and although I've got a much bigger system, it's very unlikely that I'm ever going to need to export 6.5 or more. So we'll see. Although a few days ago, I did hit a little peak of exporting 4 kilowatts, which was interesting. It was just a little short window of exporting that much, but maybe I will run into the export limitation. We'll see. Some questions here, some discussion. System cost 15 grand. So if I think box striker, you might be getting your kilowatt hours and kilowatt peak mixed up there. So 18 times 420 gives you your kilowatt peak, which I'm not a mathematician, which gives 7.56 kilowatt peak, and then you've got 19 kilowatt hours, as you've correctly put there, for the two batteries. Excellent. You should be dead happy. Yeah, down in Devon as too. Well, hello to all of you people down in Devon. I've got some good friends down in Devon. 3 kilowatt peak, but 950. Yep. Yeah. If you've got the old feed-in tariff, then you're laughing. The old, whatever it is, 45p, is it, per kilowatt hour? And that's not just for export. You can even use that energy and you're still being paid for it. That was living the dream, hey? But significant capital investment back then, I appreciate. Koi channel. Oh, okay. Right. We're going to have a little look at your channel, are we? All right, put that in a new tab. I'll have a little look. Yeah. Cost-wise, 15 grand so you've got 19 kilowatt hours. Yeah, I think that's reasonable cost. That's pretty much in the ballpark of the quotes I was getting from the decent installers anyway. There were some people who would undercut that, but they seemed a bit shady, and I didn't want any part of any of that. I live a bit further north, but battery's the way to go. Lets you time shift your usage. Yeah, keep your power. Don't forget, all you advocates with battery, I'm talking from a point of view as someone who's quite naive and hasn't lived with home storage battery, but I'm quite aware of the losses involved. Not only the conversion losses during the charge and discharge cycles of the battery, but I've been made aware by someone that these solar inverters, my solar inverter, it basically trickles along and uses basically no energy until the solar generation kicks in, and then the inverter does consume a bit of energy. But it doesn't really have like standby losses as such. It's trickling along using, just a couple of watts. I was staggered to see people with the same inverter, but with a DC battery connected onto it. The standby consumption of the inverter just sitting there, just sustaining the base load of the house on the battery overnight was quite staggering. And there was one person who they reported that they lost 1.5 kilowatt hours overnight, not from any draw. And they had one of these fancy systems that has CT clamps on all of the circuits in your consumer unit, so they could kind of drill down into where the consumption had gone. I don't know. Anyway, it was one single case, but did have some strong data of why running your house from battery overnight was using a lot more than just the conversion losses, and why sometimes in the whole cycle of charging a battery and then discharging a battery and then running the standby consumption on the inverter, sometimes you might be using 20% or maybe even more of that. I mean, the losses seem quite high, but it does seem specific combinations of specific inverters and batteries do seem to be better or worse. But I don't know. I've been reading a little bit also in the solar group that's on Facebook, the big one that's got thousands and thousands of people. Interesting to see. There's some people with a good amount of data collection and analysis on that. Anyway, inverter going in is Give Energy Gen 3. Brilliant. Yeah. Might go a bit when they hear. So I have the options to have the 8 panels on the east fitted with Tigo Optimisers. Is it Tigo or Tigo? I say Tigo. Maybe you say Tigo. It's a chimney that will cost still half of mine, 500 more, but the wife. But while they are here and scaffold is up, I think I'll say fit them. come Monday. Yeah, well, the other thing that it gives you, it does give you the data for the panel by panel data if you've got the Cloud Connect with your Tigo optimizers. So the optimizers themselves per panel, they're an additional cost, but they're only, they're about a third of the cost of the actual panel itself. And then once you move into the Cloud Connect and the other bits and bobs, you can then bring the whole system up. But I don't know. For now, I'm enjoying the data they give, if nothing else. I'm not sure they're worth the financial premium, but see how you go. Fantastic. I would love to see an average generation by hour graph. Okay. I don't know how to do that with my Sunsynk inverter. If there's someone out there with a Sunsynk inverter that knows how to work with some of these custom reports in a better way, I'm finding the general data that comes out of the Sunsynk web portal and app is very good, and it gives me the basic data and then some advanced data very, very well. But when I'm looking into things like the average generation by hour, I don't know how I would generate that, and I can't seem to export the data from the inverter in a CSV format to then, pluck out what I want and using some formulas to get to that. Anyway, I'd love to see that as well. As someone who is not keen on getting battery storage, it would help see how easy self-utilization would be, i.e. how big is the midday peak versus the early morning and late evening. Having said that, the 15p export and Agile Octopus means it is often better to export than use it. Yeah, very true. At the moment, I'm on Tracker. I may be jumping onto Octopus Agile as we start tapering off the heat pump, because I feel that I could probably make better gains on Agile through the summer months, but I'm also weighing up Flux. Anyway, I've already spoken about this. I've got to stop waffling on. I wanted to try and keep this well under an hour, and it's really going on. Great video. Would be interesting to see if possible the peak generation on the northwest, southeast, for instance. It hit 4 kilowatt on the 8th or whatever it would have been. Okay, I won't do that for you now, but I'll try and do that in the next video, because that is something that I have the data for. Really surprising and interesting what's been generated. Seems like the rest of the year should prove that it was a good investment. I hope so. Thank you. Battery is a must. Do you use solar for your hot water? No, I don't have either solar thermal collectors, and I don't have like an eddy diverter. For me, using the heat pump, and as it gets warmer, the heat pump is getting close to, I think yesterday it was fairly warm, and it did the hot water cycle at 380% efficiency, which is very impressive. In the summer months, it will probably be even better, warmer ambient temperature. The heat pump's not having to work as hard, and I should be able to run the heat pump from solar, but it works as a multiplier. So with an eddy, if I use 1,000 watts of solar, I'm only getting, maximum 1,000 watts put into the cylinder. Whereas with a heat pump, if I'm using 1,000 watts of solar, I'm getting 3,800 watts of thermal energy put into the hot water cylinder. So yeah, if you haven't seen some of my heat pump videos, I recommend go back and look at some of those. Okay, Fraz 3 Alpha. I think your pie charts at 210 are mislabeled. No, they're not. Go back and have a look. They're definitely correct. On the first pie chart, I show the amount of panels, the kilowatt peak that's fitted. The bigger slices of the northwest, the smaller slices the southeast. On the second slide, I show that 63% of my generation was on the northwest roof and 37% on the southeast roof. And then on the left-hand side of those pie charts, I show actually how many kilowatt hours are produced. Those figures are correct. So, yeah. No, thanks for making me check it anyway. I always love someone to fact check and make sure we get everything accurate here. Good vid. Seems like an incredibly good result for the northwest facing panels. Yeah, I think so too. It's made me rethink my assumptions on them. Never a bad thing. As you say, they must like diffuse light conditions. Be interested to see their relative output over the year to see how they stack up versus the southeast panels. Cheers. Well, follow along. If you're not subscribed, you may well be subscribed and just have privacy settings on, but follow along. I will be sharing it step by step. I've had an install for 5 years, and this Feb is almost the worst I've seen. Not a great start to the year. One advantage of local storage is soaking up the excess, but it depends on the import costs compared to the export costs. I think given the proportion of north to south, the south will likely equal the north panels in May and June. Based on your Feb figures, March is likely to hit 5 kilowatt hours. World's warmest February according to BBC. Yeah, I didn't put that in this video. I put it in my heat pump video, didn't I? The warmest Feb 2024 for the UK, but also one of the wettest, along with the duller than normal across the country. Being duller and wetter explains the lower PV output. Yeah, I'm not sure if I covered that in the video, that my heat pump consumption was down, but the solar production was also lower than it could have been, so it kind of, balanced out and it was fine. But yeah, that's the goal, looking for 50 kilowatt hours. Judging by the first week of March, we were easily on track for 5 kilowatt hours. Judging by the forecast for the next 10 days, now I'm not so sure if we'll make it, but fingers crossed and all those superstitious things. Yeah, the south will likely equal the north panels in May and June. Ooh, you're gazing into your crystal ball. I like it, John Rush. Thank you for commenting. Hey, keep watching the videos and remind me of your prediction when I release my May and June videos. And let's see what happens. Right, I've got to the end of all of the comments on that video about my first month of wrapping up the figures for it. Going forward, I'm gonna try and adopt the format of splitting the video 50% between the kind of little slideshow presentation and the little pie chart. I'm moving the wrong tabs around, aren't I? I'll switch so that I begin the videos and give the headlines, and then at the end of the video I'll dig into the data with the spreadsheets, because I know some of you love that and you're craving that. So anyway, now I'm giving the game away, aren't I, with what's next on the channel. More home improvements coming. Anyway, thank you all for watching this. Please give it a like, a comment, a subscribe, all that YouTube stuff, just so we can keep spreading and promoting this further. See you guys. Bye.